Ladies and gentlemen, the Middle East is on fire again. And here's the craziest part. America wanted to scare Iran. Israel wanted to isolate Iran. Instead, the entire region is turning into a geopolitical group project where nobody wants to be the one doing the actual fighting. Seriously, it's like your college assignment. Everybody's in the WhatsApp group. Everybody says, bro, I'm with you. But when it's time to present, everyone suddenly has a family emergency. Today we're talking about Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. And the biggest question of all, has America walked into a war it cannot control? Let's break it down. The first signal came from Lebanon. Reports indicate heightened military activity around Beirut, with helicopters monitoring the capital amid fears that the Israel-Hezbollah front could escalate again. That matters because Hezbollah is no longer viewed as just a Lebanese militia. It's part of a much wider regional network that includes Iran-backed groups across the Middle East. And here's a nightmare for military planners. Every time one front calms down, another front threatens to explode. It's like playing whack-a-mole, except every mole has rockets. Now let's move to Syria. Syria has become one of the most strategically important pieces on the chessboard. Reports suggest Syrian authorities have been reinforcing security around Damascus rather than moving major forces elsewhere. Why? Because if regional tensions escalate, Damascus becomes both a military and political target. Iran has repeatedly warned that countries assisting military operations against it could face consequences. Whether those warnings translate into action is another question. But in geopolitics, sometimes the threat itself changes everyone's behavior. Nobody wants to be the first domino. Now, here's where things get complicated. Turkey. Turkey is a NATO member. Turkey buys American weapons. Turkey argues with Israel. Turkey talks with Iran. Turkey works with Russia. Turkey somehow manages to be in every WhatsApp group simultaneously. Turkey's foreign policy is basically, I'm not picking sides unless there's a discount. Ankara has criticized Israeli military actions. At the same time, it maintains relations with Washington. So everyone keeps asking, which side would Turkey actually support if this conflict grows? The honest answer, nobody knows, including sometimes Turkey. Then comes Qatar. People love saying, why doesn't Qatar just do something? Do what exactly? Qatar hosts one of America's largest military bases in the region. The Al Udeid Air Base is a critical hub for U.S. operations. Imagine your best friend asking you to fight your landlord while your landlord lives in your basement. That's Qatar's diplomatic situation. It's balancing relations with Washington, maintaining communication channels with regional actors, and trying not to become the next battlefield. Because once missiles start flying, neutrality becomes very expensive. Now, let's talk about the country everyone keeps mentioning, Saudi Arabia. For years, people assumed Saudi Arabia would automatically support every American regional strategy. Reality has become far more complicated. Saudi Arabia spent years trying to reduce regional tensions while focusing on economic transformation, mega projects, tourism, investment, artificial intelligence. You can't build futuristic cities while missiles are flying over your airports. That's terrible for tourism. Nobody books a luxury vacation thinking, wow, the ballistic missile warning really adds atmosphere. And that's why Riyadh has often preferred diplomacy over direct military escalation. Not because it's weak, because wars are expensive, very expensive. And investors hate uncertainty more than they hate taxes. Now, here's something nobody talks about enough. Modern wars aren't just fought with missiles. They are fought with shipping lanes, insurance costs, oil prices, supply chains, financial markets. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the world's most important energy choke points. Any disruption there immediately affects oil markets, which means you don't have to live in Tehran or Tel Aviv or Washington to feel the impact. You just need to buy petrol. Congratulations, you're officially participating in Middle Eastern geopolitics. Now, let's address one of the biggest discussions surrounding Iran's nuclear program. There are frequent public debates about underground nuclear facilities. Many analysts point out that deeply buried sites are significantly harder to destroy using conventional weapons. That's true. Military experts have long discussed the challenges posed by hardened underground facilities. But here's the important distinction. There is no credible public evidence that the United States has decided to use nuclear weapons against Iran, and speculation about such scenarios should not be treated as established fact. Because once people start confusing internet theories with government policy, things get dangerous. Twitter is not a Pentagon, and YouTube comments are definitely not intelligence briefings, although some people act like they are. Meanwhile, Israel faces its own strategic dilemma. Its objective has consistently been preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons capability. Iran insists its nuclear program is peaceful. Western governments remain skeptical. And so the cycle continues. Sanctions, warnings, military preparations, back-channel diplomacy, repeat. It's basically the world's most stressful relationship. Everyone says, we don't want war, then immediately schedules another military exercise. Now here's a bigger issue. Every regional player has different priorities. Israel focuses on security. Iran focuses on deterrence. Saudi Arabia focuses on economic modernization. Turkey focuses on strategic independence. Qatar focuses on mediation. America focuses on maintaining influence. Russia wants leverage. China wants stability for trade. Europe wants cheaper energy. Nobody wants the same outcome, which means every negotiation becomes a traffic jam. Everybody has somewhere to go. Nobody agrees on which lane to use. And then there's Donald Trump. Trump has always argued that projecting strength prevents conflict. His supporters say deterrence works. His critics argue that aggressive rhetoric can increase tensions. Regardless of where you stand politically, one fact remains. Every decision made in Washington sends shockwaves across the region. One speech can move oil markets. One sanction can affect global inflation. One military deployment can change diplomatic calculations in half a dozen capitals. That's the scale we are dealing with. Meanwhile, ordinary people are stuck watching leaders play geopolitical chess. Families worry about prices. Businesses worry about supply chains. Students worry about their future. Nobody wins when instability becomes permanent, except maybe defense contractors. Those guys see conflict and immediately start updating quarterly revenue forecasts. And that's the tragedy. For politicians, war becomes strategy. For television, wars become breaking news. For analysts, war becomes podcast. For civilians, wars become funerals. Huge difference. So where does this leave us? The region is entering another period of uncertainty. Military activity is increasing. Diplomatic contacts continue behind closed doors. Governments are preparing for multiple possibilities simultaneously. That's normal during crisis. But predicting exactly what happens next, nobody can honestly do that. Not television anchors, not YouTubers, not anonymous Twitter accounts with eagle profile pictures, and definitely not that one uncle forwarding secret intelligence on WhatsApp. The lesson here is simple. The Middle East is no longer a conflict involving just two countries. It's a network. Pull one string and five others move. That's why every military decision now carries economic, political, and diplomatic consequences far beyond the battlefield. And that's exactly why the world is watching so closely. Because if this conflict expands, the effects won't stay in the Middle East. They'll reach gas stations, stock markets, shipping companies, and households across the globe. And that's what we are already witnessing from the last few months. So here's the question. Are we witnessing another short regional crisis, or the beginning of a much larger geopolitical confrontation? Nobody has an answer today. But one thing is certain. The next few weeks could shape the Middle East for years to come. So that's it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because as the story develops, I'll keep separating verified facts from speculation and explain why every new headline matters. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.